we do pass, that we have access to alternate universes. So when I say that we can reincarnate in the past.
Okay, everyone, we're listening to The Intelligent Soul, and today we have Dr. Bruce. I hope I don't butcher your name, Kaloski. He is a
Kaloski, actually is Kaloski.
Kaloski. Thank you. He is a hypnotherapist, and he specifically focuses, I know he focuses on a lot of different things. He's written a myriad of books. I'm going to put all the links down there, so check that out. But right now, I want to interview him about reincarnation, past lives, past life regression. And this is what we're mostly going to dive into, this juicy topic. I'm so fascinating. Many of my clients know that I do past life regression myself, but that's all I focus on. I don't have any other certification in hypnosis therapy, which Bruce does. And I can see people's past lives in their charts, and I have experienced my own past lives as well, which were very fascinating. And I always tell people, I could tell you that you were a purple frog with pink polka dots. And but if it resonates with you, if it rings true, if you're like, oh my, like there was one time I told somebody that they were a conductor, like a train conductor, and that blew them away because they said ever since they were
Really?
two, they collected trains. They were fascinated by trains. They wanted to be on trains. So I'm sure you have some of those stories as well,
Oh yeah. Oh
Bruce.
yeah,
So
sure, certainly
Bruce,
related.
introduce
Definitely.
yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What's your website? Where can they find your books? And then let's get down to the juicy stuff.
All righty. Do you want me to? Well, my website is Dr. Kaloski at Gmail. I mean, excuse me, drkaloski.com. Okay.
Yes.
Drkaloski.
Yes.
Email is drkaloski at gmail.com. My books, I have books in two different categories, two different veins. One is metaphysical, spiritual, it's on reincarnation. Your journey was never meant to end, the compelling case for reincarnation. And the other one is in the personal improvement, self-development area, Psych Yourself Slim with self-talk hypnosis, because that's what I've done for almost 50 years. I've been both a hypnotherapist and a past life regression therapist. And my hypnotherapy has centered on behavioral and habit control, things like weight loss and smoking cessation, anxiety, stress, all the neat little things like that.
Well, as we know, the power of words is phenomenal. And I'm experimenting with it right now because we can all have this negative self talk. Plus, we're inundated with negative self talk. I don't think people realize when they're looking up, how can I lose weight? How can I get rid of this? How can I stop that? And we're looking at all these YouTube videos, are actually negatively telling us that we have a problem that needs to be fixed constantly. And
Right.
that's a type of hypnosis, I would say, a negative type of hypnosis. Your site says hypnotherapist to the stars. Can you explain that one?
Worked with a lot. Well, I live in Orange County, California. Matter of fact, I live in Huntington Beach, which is Surf City, USA.
I'm well
And
aware of that area.
I'm only about 30 miles from LA.
Hmm.
So years ago, I'm going back in the 90s, I had a string of hypnotherapy clinics in LA and Orange County. I think it was at the time 18 clinics, 21 staff therapists, and the ones particularly up in LA um, would see a lot of people in the entertainment industry. Some of the stars, you have to call them stars. Some of them would come down. Since I live in Orange County, that's where my office was. That's where I worked out of, and they'd come down and see me. And I still see some of the Hollywood types now and then, time to time.
Nice.
Only now it's online.
Yeah, everything's on Zoom now. And even thanks to COVID, that kind of kicked it up quite a few notches as well.
I
So,
almost have to thank COVID for that. You're right.
eh,
I like everybody else. I went to an office every day. I did that, but been there, done that, got the T-shirt, as they say.
yeah,
And COVID hit. People couldn't come out. They were on lockdown. So
yeah,
I had to make a choice, make a decision. Am I going to keep paying rent, or am I going to join the 21st century, kicking and screaming, and go online, which is what I
exactly.
decided to do. I
Yeah,
love it.
I love it too. I think it's
I've never
progress,
gone. You couldn't drag me back into an office.
right? I mean, this is the way it should have always been. So some of these jobs, it's like a lot of people didn't go back to the office, or they just go back once a week,
Right.
so
And as far as therapy is concerned, I found it more effective doing it online because the person is so much more, particularly in hypnotherapy, so much more relaxed in the safety and security and comfort of their own home.
absolutely. I find that too. What got you into focusing on past lives?
Well, it's a story. I have to go back many, many years. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, and my family is was in the aviation industry. My father was a fighter pilot during the war and stationed in England. He flew P-51 Mustangs, and after the war, we got out. My family. This was back in the mid to late 40s. They got some property because they also owned a duck farm at the same time on Long Island. So got some property and opened an airport. One of the first airports out there in that part of the island. And my father, who was injured in the war, his plane went down the English Channel, became an instructor. He was the airport's instructor. His brother was the mechanic. My father was the pilot and the instructor. And so uh, he used to use hypnosis to help his students
Wow.
pass the FAA exam, both the written flight exam and also there's a practical where you have to actually fly with the examiner, and it can be nervous. So I would watch him doing that, and he had a whole bunch of books at home. I wish I had those books now. They'd be worth it. I think I have a couple of them, but not the whole library he had. And on how to do hypnosis. He was self-taught. Everybody back then was self-taught. There were no schools. You went to the school
Exactly.
of hard knocks. And one of the books he had was a book called The Search for Bridie Murphy, which Bridie, that was written by an amateur hypnotist called Maury Bernstein, who popularized the notion that we might have lived before. And this is back, I think it was published in '56 or something like that. And then they made a movie out of it. And it was all the rage back then. His book sold something like 200,000 copies the first month. People used to kid about it. They used to have come as you were parties. The joke was
That's
that
fun.
when the kid was born, they say, "Welcome back." Anyway, so that made past life. That was first brought past life regression, hypnotic past life regression, to the forefront. And I was reading it, and I
What
said, "What
year
the heck?"
was that?
This was back. Oh, I probably read this in the late '50s, so I was just a kid back then. And I asked my father about that. I said, "What is this? This thing? People being born again?" And we talked about it, and he believed it. He believed in a reincarnation. He believed. See, as I told you, his plane went down in the English ancient. He went down the English Channel, bailed out. He spent a few days on the beach in Nazi-occupied France, and was found by some farmers there. Anyway, he believed that he was a fighter pilot in World War One, also, but he wasn't quite so. I don't know. He got shot down over France, went down in flames. I don't know. Maybe the Red Baron shot him down. He doesn't know. And then he died there. But he was also a fighter pilot in the Second World War, and he got out of that alive. So we talked about it. That's why I was first introduced to the concept of reincarnation. What did I know about that?
Wow.
We all had these memories when, not we all did, but a lot of the kids have memories when they are younger, and they
Yes.
about two, three, four, and as you know, they fade around 6 or 7, they're gone.
Yeah.
The filter. I don't know. I have my own theories as to why that should happen. I think it has something to do with the brain, pineal gland, maybe. But around then, we sort of lose those memories. And there's stories of kids talking to their parents and telling, "Oh, you remember when you used to be my son and I changed your diaper? I remember this, I remember that." And then when the mom or dad bring that up again when they're about 7 or 8, the kid looks at them like they were crazy. I never said that. Well, they don't remember it. It's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
There's case after case after case of that. So, like anybody, I had strange things, memories, and I'd tell my parents about that, and they, oh yeah, right, right. No, it's overactive imagination. And so that's when I started asking my father about that. He explained it very well. That's how I got interested. I got interested in both hypnosis and also reincarnation at the same time.
So I'm going to ask you what your most fascinating story is too. So you're going to have to start picking your library there for one of those stories. How does it help people to have a past life regression?
Well, there are a number of different types of past life regression. I delineate and I teach my students to do 4 different types of past life regression. One of them is called the informational session. That's like
Informational. Okay.
information. The years ago, there was a very famous crime drama on TV called Dragnet. And the
Yes.
lead character in the show Dragnet was Jack Webb. The character Sergeant Joe Friday, and Joe Friday had a special catchphrase, which was "Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts." And this is
That's
I
right.
call my Joe Friday session, which is really an informational session. This is good for people who just want just the facts. They are not that concerned with insights. Why? Well, how does this life correspond to this? What effect is it having on my current life? They want things that they can verify for historical accuracy, which you can do now very easily, which you couldn't do, 40 years ago. You had to go to a library. Now, within 10 minutes, you can have the answers.
Yeah.
Thanks to Google, good old Google. And so that's one type. So people who have a need to know, have inquiring minds. Well, what was I? I'm just curious. How did I live? What did I do? How did I work? How did I die? Then there's what's called one called a karmic connection session, and that's for people who are interested in a previous life that is connected to this life in somehow. That's primarily responsible for whatever is going on in this particular or at this particular time in this particular life. Because we can have a lot of connections. Now, when you do that with a client, they don't necessarily go back to the last life lived. In other
No.
words, if we accept, which I don't always necessarily accept, that's another story, a chronological time that would say that, and there's about 50 to 60, 70 years between lives. If you were born in 1960 in this life, then you probably lived before the late 1800s, and then maybe before that in the 1700s, if we accept chronologicality or linearity. But that might not be the case with karmic connections. You might be facing a particular issue or challenge in this life that is traceable to something that happened in 1500s, back in the
Yeah.
Renaissance, ancient Rome, whatever. That's where you'll go back. That's where your subconscious mind will take you. Then you got the between lives regression. Right? We know what that is. That's
Yeah.
where, well, actually, it's like getting 2 sessions in one. I take a person back to the lifetime directly lived directly prior to this one, do a brief overview, then I use it as a jumping off point for them to explore the between lives state, what people like to call home. And there they do things like they meet their spirit guide, they meet their soul group, they go before the council of elders, which are the hierarchy of things, several levels above spirit guide. I tell people it's like a corporate structure. You got the chairman of the board. Okay, who's that? That's some people call him God. Some people call him the big kahuna, whatever you want to call him. That entity is at the top.
The boss.
Then beneath them is like a board of directors, and then there's division heads and whatnot. So spirit guides might fall somewhere in that. But you also have the council of elders. They kind of oversee. They don't have to incarnate anymore. They've been there, done that. They got their T-shirt. So they're just generally in charge of things to a certain level up there. I take them before the council of elders. They get to ask them a few questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What's it all about, Alfie? Things like that. And then we look at the pre-birth planning phase. What the life they're planning this particular lifetime. So we go through that, soul contracts, things like that. So that's the third type. Fourth type is past life therapy. That is past life regression for a particular purpose, for
Yeah.
fears, phobias, self-esteem, self-confidence, a whole host of things, eating disorders, you name it. a lot of things can be traced back to a previous lifetime, and this is therapy directed toward that.
Wow. How many
I
lives do you
take
think that we have?
how many do I think personally, if you accept the premise that souls were formed around the time of the Big Bang, which is what? Excuse me, 13.8 billion years ago.
Yeah, the argument
In
is
that,
still out
I,
there. Yeah,
yeah, in that lifetime, I think in that time, well, and humans have been humans for what, a million years, a half a million years. We've probably had hundreds, if not thousands, of lifetimes as human beings. Then there are the
I
people who
agree.
believe that we've lived on other planets.
I agree. I agree. When I tell people it's thousands, they're like, no, why would I want to do this 1,000 or more times? That's incredible.
Why
I
not?
love
For the
all of these.
experience. Yeah, it's sure. People say, "Oh, this is a terrible. The earth is terrible, and why would I choose some of these lifetimes of poverty and infirmity?" And I tell people, I says, "Yeah, but you have to think about something. Uh, in terms of eternity, this all goes in the blink of an eye.
I
You're here and you're
know.
gone. We talk about our 70, our allotted biblical, what is it, 70. Well, it may seem long to us who are living it, but to the soul, it's over like that.
Yeah.
Then we start again, or we don't start again,
What
whatever we
time is
want to
just a
do.
concept, right?
So people say, why would I choose it? You're choosing the experience, to have the experience, to have the gain for your soul to grow. Why do we go and get inoculations? Why do we get shots? As a kid, you hated getting those shots. They used to have those treatments for polio and smallpox and stuff, and you get vaccinated, and it hurt. Well, why'd you do it? No pain, no gain, so that you didn't get these things. Why
What?
do people go to the gym and work out and
That's
put
right.
themselves through all that pain? No
Yeah.
pain, no gain.
That's the example I use as well. You're going to go to the gym. It's not going to be fun for most people. Some
This is
people
a good
actually
one.
like it, but for most people it's like work, right?
Yeah.
But you get a result at the end of the work. What is your favorite story for past life?
My favorite story has the one that's a lot of them left impressions with me, but one of them that's really left impressions was like many years ago. I had a fellow come in he was taking an exam. He came in for memory and concentration to my office back then. And as he was sitting there, he's squirming around. I said, "You okay? Is the chair not comfortable?" And he said, "No, I've just got this pain in my back. The doctors can't figure out what it's from." We were talking. And then I took a chance because normally I wouldn't do this but I said, "Have you ever heard of past life regression?" He said, "Yeah, I read about it." Well, that's good. Let me tell you about it. And I explained the premise that since there is no physiological reason for that pain, it might be psychological, it might be tied into a past life. So he came back the next session and we did a past life regression. He went back to he also said he also has a problem that he said, I'm always looking behind me. It's like I'm really almost paranoid. I'm chronically mistrustful of people. I'm always checking my back. Right? I think he used that phrase. So I took him through the past life regression. He went back to a lifetime, lived as a trapper, a fur trapper in Colorado. I think it was 1800s, 1880s. He was encroaching on Indian land there, an Indian tribe's land. So which they did not necessarily like that. And so they had a powwow at the reservation. They had a powwow. They smoked a peace pipe, whatever they did. They came up with the solution. He was going to be allowed to use certain part of the land, certain number of beaver pelts, whatever. Okay, everybody was happy except one renegade Indian, a whippersnapper, who did not want to have anything to do with the white man. So this trapper is walking towards his horse. The renegade, whatever you want to call him, sneaks up behind him with a tomahawk and gets him in the back. He
Mm.
dies a horrible, painful death. Even the Indian medicine man couldn't save him.
Mm.
And so that, in his mind, was the cause for A, his back pain, and B, being chronically mistrustful, always looking behind his back.
Wow.
That really stood out. That really stood out in my mind. Just a few weeks ago, we had the young lady who came because she had a fear of gas explosion, of being caught in a gas explosion, and so she went back to a lifetime lived. I believe it was the early part of the 20th century in England, in this row of houses, and she was only about 5 or 6 years old, and she was caught in a gas explosion. She died. She
So how
died
did it
during the
help them
explosion. So
after? Like this gentleman with the back pain, did it help his back
yeah.
pain?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Wow.
absolutely. Once he saw the reason for that, the pain was gone
Wow.
because there was no physiological reason for that. He didn't pull
Right.
a muscle,
Right.
he didn't have a disc problem.
Well, yeah, because you said the doctors couldn't find it. So how many Cleopatras are there out there and the Queen of England's?
No, I can count the number of Cleopatras and Napoleons on one hand and have fingers left over. That is a misnomer of people who are naysayers of reincarnation. Oh, everybody's Cleopatra. Everybody, very few people. The overwhelming majority of people have led very simple lives. Even the
Boring.
studies that one you want to read some great research on this, read anything, read the books written by Dr. Helen Wambach. She did great research back in the 70s. I was a past lives under hypnosis, life before life, uh, where she hypnotized groups of people and chronicled their experiences and looked at socioeconomic data that matched the what was known at the time. Like only 2% at the time, the historically were ever in the higher class, and that's what came out in her particular regressions among the groups. So most people, very rarely, when you're working with this, very rarely you're going to get somebody who is a higher economic strata because you wouldn't, because it's the numbers, it's the statistics. And as far as that, you just I don't. I don't think I've ever had a Cleopatra or a Napoleon because you look at the numbers. What are the odds?
Definitely. Do we do you think that we can come back as fragments of different souls? Like someone could have the Cleopatra energy in them. Somebody could have the
That
Napoleon energy
that's
in them.
I believe it. Yeah, I believe that that's a possibility. That is a possibility. Now, uh, I'm going to get I wouldn't call weird, but
Go woo
many
woo on
believe.
my show.
Yeah, woo, but actually, I'm getting more scientific. When you look at quantum physics, and we talk about things like singularities and quantum entanglement and the string theory, there is a theory that we can reincarnate at different times in the past. That time is all one. Even Einstein felt that the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously.
Yep.
And so when we pass, this energy, this consciousness doesn't die. It can't die because it's energy, right? This consciousness can go into different past periods, time frames, and maybe absorb some of the energy of that particular time frame without having played that particular part. What you're doing is you're playing a part, what Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players. So there is a theory that that's what happens. We weren't actually that person. We just took part in that play. And we absorbed the energy of Cleopatra, of Napoleon.
I like that. I love that.
But we're
If,
never going to know for sure until we pass over, are we?
well,
You can put
we
out
don't.
all the theories you want, and
Yeah.
that's all they are, opinions and theories.
Why do we forget?
Why we forget? Well, there's a number of different reasons for that. I feel it's for because if we remembered, we couldn't live this without too many memories. Too many things would be clogging our mind And
Yeah.
there was a great show. Remember the show Twilight Zone? Well, not
Yeah.
the original, not the Rod Serling, but the later, pardon the pun, the later incarnation of Twilight Zone. I think it might have been the 70s or the 80s. There was a show about a gal. The one gal she was a hypnotherapist, a past life regression therapist in the show, and she lived in a alternate reality where the problem was that people remembered their past. Everybody remembered everything. So people were becoming absolutely psychotic. People were committing suicide because of they remembered past lives in which they were horrible people and like that. So her job, she was a past life therapist. Her job was to help people forget their past lives. So that was a neat Twilight Zone. Uh, but you know, what
That is what would happen if I was I
it is,
would want to
imagine you remember
forget. I want to
everything
forget
of
some of this
everyone.
lifetime.
They would be overwhelmed. So that's there. I think that's
Yeah.
there for a reason.
Yeah.
They call the veil of forgetfulness, as I think a technical term. Physiologically, there might be. I don't think we know as much about the brain as we think we do, or everything there is to know about the brain. My opinion, there is something, an organ in the brain that that allows us. It's like a radio. It's like the old days. You had crystals. Ham radio operators they had crystals in the sets, and that's how they tuned into a particular frequency or a particular channel. I think it's the same with the brain. Some people feel it's the pineal gland, and that as we age, the pineal gland begins to calcify, so it cuts off the signal. Now we're getting signals from our past lives. It cuts it off. Others believe, I believe it's around the age of 7 or 8, that the cranium fully hardens, maybe
Ooh.
preventing the particular signals from getting through.
The soft
That's
spot is gone.
exactly, the soft spot is gone. And coincidentally, that's the age when the kids just lose the memories of their previous lives. So I
That's
think there's a
interesting.
physiological reason for all of that.
I became fascinated with past lives in my early 20s when I had my first past life regression. And then I had one that was like, it happened to me. I didn't go into a past life regression. I just found out visually and proof what my past life was. I had really backed up proof around it. I wish I wish we had the internet back in that day because I'd have even more proof to recall it right now. But then I started going down the rabbit hole of watching videos where there's some famous ones, right? Where the kid that he thought he remembered being a pilot as well, and that he had crashed, and that's in Scotland. But there was, for the life of me, I can't remember it, but there was a gentleman that would research, like he would go to their homes, he would take them, they actually flew this child out to the island that he remembered being born. They looked for the home that he lived in. There was a very small island, a very small village, so they could see the records.
I remember
And
them.
indeed it did exist, and that he was a fighter pilot. He was early, and he was just flying back home, and he crashed into the waters. Another one was an Indian girl. Her family was still alive. She passed away when she was really young, and she came back, and she had the same color eyes. They have very unusual color eyes. He went and did the research there, took this child, took her to who she said was her family, back in the past life. So I really enjoyed that because of the private investigation
Well,
behind it
there
as
is
well.
so many studies out there. I go through it into a lot of them in my book, by the way. We
Oh,
talk about
interesting.
James Leininger, who's the young fellow who was in a previous life was a fighter pilot who flew off
That's right. Yes.
an aircraft carrier. Remember that one?
Yes.
That is a famous one. And he remembered those until 5 or 6, 7 years old. Now he's a teenager, I believe. Now those are all gone. I think his father's a member of my group too. So now that's all gone. All those memories are gone. That's one. The lady who was the reincarnation claims to be the reincarnation of Anne Frank. She has some
Right.
memories that she should not have, some knowledge that she should not have. So it does give one pause for thought. And a lot of the work done by Ian Stevenson at the University of Virginia, the School of Perceptual Studies,
Hmm.
is work on that. He passed on, and his work was taken over by Jim Tucker, Dr. Jim Tucker, who's continued that. And Tucker was instrumental in the Leininger case. Then there's the kid right out here in Southern California, a baseball prodigy, 3-year-old baseball prodigy, who apparently is the reincarnation of the great Yankee first baseman Lou Gehrig, because he has
Oh, I've
memories
heard
that
of that one. Yeah.
I
Wow.
talk about in my book too. Yeah.
I have whether, everybody out listening to this is an Elon Musk fan or not. I'm not going to say I am or I'm not, but I'm convinced he's the reincarnation of Nikola Tesla because of some of the things that and Nassim Haramein, which some people may not be familiar with, who's a radical physicist, who's uneducated physicist, but has already won some Nobel Prizes. I believe he's a reincarnation of Einstein, because he actually finished one of Einstein's equations, which is really fascinating as
Is that
well. But
right?
I mean, none of them said that about themselves. What is your take on Dolores Cannon?
I knew Dolores Cannon years ago when I was president of the American Board of Hypnotherapy. We used to bring in speakers, and we brought in Dolores Cannon. We had Michael Newton, and we used to have some healthy discussions. I took issue with some of her stuff. Lots of real too off the wall for me, too woo. But hey, look, they get their people get results. Their quantum therapy people get results. I did not quite subscribe to her theories, a lot of her theories, but we had healthy discussions.
I
She was a
asked that
great,
too because I also question some of it. I don't know. Some of it just seemed generalized, to be honest with you. But
particularly I don't know about reincarnating on other planets. Now, first of all, you have to accept the premise: is there life on other planets? So as far as we know, the only life is on Earth. Captain Kirk, notwithstanding, and Mr. Spock. Is there intelligent life? Well, we asked the question whether there's intelligent life on this planet, but is there life on intelligent life on the planet? But and then it might be. I mean, it's just a big universe out there. We may never know, but there is a theory that souls reincarnate within the same species. So a human soul does not reincarnate as a dog. A dog does not reincarnate as a human. A
yeah,
dog reincarnates as dogs, cats as cats, gerbils as gerbils, so on and so forth, within the same species. So if that's true, I'm saying this tongue in cheek, of course, humans, Klingons, Vulcans, whatever. Okay, I'm going back to Star Trek analogy
Martians.
now.
Yeah.
They're all different species. So if you accept the premise that we only reincarnated to the same species, how would you reincarnate in a species halfway across the galaxy?
Hey, you want to really help me out? I have hundreds and thousands of people watch my videos, but many of them don't like or subscribe. If you could like this right now or subscribe, I would be forever in your debt. Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah, that's a thought. I could consider that one too. In one of the Buddhist sects, they believe that we could reincarnate as an animal because that would be a downgrade. Of course, a lot of animal lovers would be against that kind of concept,
I
but
would argue the
they believe
opposite.
like as a human, you're very privileged to be a human and you're a higher vibration and you're not going to downgrade or ever be an animal in animal form.
I don't believe that. And anyway, that's saying that's an insult to some of those.
I
You're
know.
saying,
There's some animals that are much better off than we are.
I know. Let me cover my dog's ears. I don't want him to hear this. I'm being
No,
insulting.
you didn't hear that. We'll edit this out. No.
Yeah.
So in the spiritual podcasting world, a lot of people claim that they are reincarnated from Lemuria, from Atlantis. What is your take on that? They're never reincarnated from the Neanderthal days or they're always from these very high-tech
Well, the
old
fact that
civilizations.
they could have been, but those chronologically speaking, they're blocking the memories of the Neanderthal period because it goes back so many millions of years. Oh, not millions, hundreds of thousands of years, rather. That could be blocked. Although they might have lived lives back there, it's not particularly relevant though to this particular life. I would think, because what would be what would be relevant? Yeah, I learned how to make fire back then. So what does that have to do with this particular lifetime?
Yeah.
I think we're going to go back to lives that might have some relevance and meaning to this one. So theoretically, we could go back there. We just don't. Now, as far as Lemuria and Atlantis, um, again, I don't know that there is any factual evidence that these places ever really existed. They were meant, at least the story of the legend of Atlantis was meant as a metaphor, as a parable, as an example. Did they ever really exist? I don't know. I've had people claim that I don't normally get that in my sessions. It does. What stands out to me is one class I did years ago in a training class. I think it was in San Diego, and the lady claimed to see herself in Atlantis, only she kind of had wings and was flitting around the place like a big Tinkerbell. And other than that, I don't have much to say about that, except that
Okay.
that's not part of my belief system.
That's no problem. I had a fascinating reading a past life regression with a client. This was one of the ones that stood out for me. And he never, it was a him, and he never experienced a past life regression before. And he could not get into human form. He just said, I am following somebody around. I feel like I'm up in the trees. I feel like I can't see any part of me. I feel like I'm just light is around me. And I'm floating around in this forest. And I'm watching somebody on the ground as if I'm their guy. I don't know who this person
Yeah,
is. It looks like a young girl.
if you read, I could probably tell you what that is.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like it's a case of a person's consciousness. Their body died in a violent manner, and their soul was the soul of consciousness was hanging around, probably looking for something maybe looking for something to attach to, but they were kind of lost because Stevenson talks about that in his book about I guess it was India, where a person had died prematurely, and they saw themselves sitting up in a tree.
Ah,
So it's probably, I think it is more relative to a between life state. I'm going to use the
okay.
term
Yeah.
between
I was
life
wondering
state.
if he was like in a spirit form or
Between life,
something.
yeah, they're in a spirit form. So that means they're between lives.
Yeah.
Their consciousness has departed this body, but it still exists because it cannot not exist. But it just hasn't gone to the other side, or the other side in what we could think of as home.
Yeah.
Uh, that particular, but they're still on the earth plane, if I may use that phrase. And
Wow.
that's probably what happened to your client, is that they, for one reason or another, decided.
Sorry about that. It just got kicked out.
Oh, that's
Oh,
too bad. Anyway, I believe in case we lost that, you would ask me about the
yeah.
client it was who just happened to not go to experiences of a prior life, but they to me what they seem to be describing is a between life state, but a between life state spent at least temporarily in the earth plane.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Seems
you had
to
mentioned that
die.
somebody had written a book written about that in their book as
Yeah,
well.
Stevenson wrote about that, and
Right.
the cases that he cataloged in, I believe it was India.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if he read that book, he could have programmed himself.
Ah. Oh, that's a good segue to my next question. Can we, since they say all lives are happening at the same time and everything is kind of stacking on top of each other, or like library books. We can open up any one we want. Can we go to a past life and change it? Heal it?
Yeah, I tell you, I believe we can. Actually, that's a therapeutic technique I teach in my classes for past lives. It's an NLP technique, rescripting and reframing. So I teach
Yeah.
people how to use that in a past life context. But um, uh, if we accept the multiverse concept of the multiverse,
Yeah.
that there are alternate universes out there. This is not the only universe, and that every time, and this goes back to Dr. Hugh Everett's theory of the multiverse. There are a number of physicists who seem to subscribe to this these days, and that when you can access when you pass your consciousness can access an alternate universe. Matter of fact, I just finished reading a book about Zura by Robert Lanza.
Yeah.
Robert Lanza, who is a one of the top scientists in the world right now, has a theory of biocentrism, and he wrote a novel. He has some nonfiction books out there, but anybody's interested in things like this, alternate universes, and this is about a book whereby they've actually in this novel is science fiction, obviously, but they have been able to hook people up, implant them in their brains with software that can put them into an alternate universe. And
Wow.
I think that's what happens. I think I don't know that you can do this in a in the lab, but
Yeah.
I believe that when we do pass, that we have access to alternate universes. So when I say that we can reincarnate in the past, people will say, and matter of fact, I every other week I do a live on my Facebook Live on my Facebook group called Reincarnation, Past Lives, and the Afterlife. Reincarnation, Past Lives, and the Afterlife. You might want to put a
Yeah, it's a
link up.
big Facebook group. I'll put the link down there as well.
Yeah. And anyway, well, I think it was the 31st. Okay, I did a show on is it possible to reincarnate into the past? And the recording is up there. So I usually after the show I put them in the featured section on the top of the Facebook page. And so we talked about that on how I believe you can reincarnate into the past, but it's not the past that you think it is. It's an alternate reality past. Because if you went back to the real past of this particular time frame, now that's where the old grandfather paradox comes into place. You're familiar with that? Where if we
No.
went back, we were able to go back in time and we murdered our grandfather, what would happen? We wouldn't be born.
Right, right.
Well,
Yeah.
I think what happens is that we reincarnate into an alternate reality that may or may not be so close to this one that the events are almost indistinguishable.
That's interesting because there's another Buddhist there's so many different Buddhist sects and sects, and there's one that believes that and it's one that follows a tree of life, that we live the exact same life over and over and over again, slightly our mission is to slightly tweak it, slightly advance it.
That's another theory. I talked about that, as a matter of fact, on that show. So if people are interested, go there and access it. You have to belong to the group, but you can just request to join the group, and
Yeah, I
hopefully.
will.
And I think I found it very interesting. I think I went about a half hour, 40 minutes, and we talk about that particular theory. There is a theory though that we live our lives or can choose to live our lives in segments. In other words, maybe 150 to 200-year time frame from, let's say, 1850 to 2050. And in that time, we can choose to be particularly reborn, maybe into this life. Maybe you come back again as Holly. I come back again as Bruce, with tweaks, slightly different changes. Maybe in that next life, I'll be better at math. I will flunk it.
My internet will work great.
Something like that, okay? Or you wouldn't make the same choices. You wouldn't choose to marry the same person. You might choose to live in a different place, which would change the timeline, alter the timeline because of the decisions that you make. There
But
was
then,
a
but then that would kind of kibosh all the stories of the fighter pilot that remembers his death, and now he's fascinated with airplanes, and and he's not a pilot, fighter pilot in this lifetime, right?
That's
So
right. Yeah.
that would challenge that theory too. But hey, if we live in a multi-universe, then there could be all those theories can be true.
An infinite number of the infinite number of universes, and the physics seem to bear it out.
Yeah,
The math and the physics seem to bear that out.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay,
Fascinating time.
I want to wrap this up. I want to ask you what I ask almost everybody is what is your version of the meaning of life?
My version of the meaning of life is experience, to experience life in all its infinite and myriad diversity. I go back to a song that was popular, Frank Sinatra's song, That's Life, hit song from 1965. I've been a puppet, a pauper, a pirate, a poet, a pawn, and a king. I've been up and down and over and out, and I know one thing. And whether old Blue Eyes knew it or not, I think it was what he might have been telling us, if he knew about things like this, is that live it, experience it. We're meant to experience life in all its infinite diversity.
Absolutely, 100%. I agree with you. You nailed it. Thank you so much, Bruce, for being on our show.
Michael,
I'm
and
going to
I
go
want
ahead.
to put a, because you say this is going up probably next week or so. I want to put a call out to your people. I need some help here.
Yes.
I am in the process of putting the finishing touches or creating an online, on-demand, I think they call them evergreen nowadays, a self-paced training program for people who want to learn how to do past life regression.
Oh, yes.
And I am looking for, I've been advised that I need to release a beta version first, just to get feedback, to make sure that everything flows before the, want of a better term, alpha version. So I'm looking for people who would be willing to test this. When this hits the market, it's going to retail for about $3,000. So right now it's going to be about 24 modules. And a whole bunch of bonus stuff. And so anybody who's interested in that, please, they can contact me on Facebook, through email, however they want to do it. And the beta version will be $500. But you got to agree to
That's
give
a
me some.
great deal.
I believe it is. And
It's a long
by the way,
commitment. Gotta agree to that.
and it includes a year's mentoring for me too. Because I know you're going to have questions. People are going to say, "What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? What do I do now?
Yeah.
How do I answer this?" I'll
Yeah.
be there for you for a year.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. Okay. You'll
My
send me the
pleasure.
link to that. I'll put that down there too. You can have a wait list or email or
Matter
some
of
kind of
fact,
a,
by the time this goes up, you have this up. Uh, my web page will the particular web page for that. I'm meeting with my webmaster today, and
okay.
we're redesigning the current one, and we're going to put that one up there. So just tell them to go to drkaloski.com on the past life regression training page. Easy.
Great.
Just look for past life regression training.
Great.
And
Well,
the
thank
most
you.
current information will be up there by the time this show goes live.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kaloski. You've given us so much great information. I'm sure that we're going to reach out and want to interview you again in the future. And my audience, I know, is crazy about these types of stories, past lives, reincarnation, NDEs, meaning of life. And thank you for the service and the work that
My
you do for
pleasure.
people as well.
We'll do it again sometime.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to The Intelligent Soul. Namaste.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your
Well,
patience.
oh, that's okay. That was a lot of fun.
Some of the
Enjoyed it.
video
A little
glitches
different.
that I've got, we got Mercury retrograde going on, so it's a little
Oh, that's
thing.
right. That's right. Well, I never believed in that until I started experiencing it years ago.
This
Every
one's a
time.
doozy. This one's really affected all of my technology,
That's what I'm hearing. This is
communication,
real.
plans have been canceled, delayed, like massive.
Yeah. How long is this supposed to? When's it supposed to end?
That's what my last client asked me because she was saying the same thing. Like even now I'm going blurry. Um, It ends August 28th, but we've got what's called a shadow, which is going to be to about the 5th of September. So August 28th, you'll see a
Oh,
massive
sure.
change after that. And then,
And anyway, I've got a couple of people who, so look for them. They're going to contact you. Well, I took a screenshot of your profile, and they're going to contact you. One is a lady that I'm doing an interview with this Wednesday on my show, and she's looking for different podcasts to be on because she's a writer, and
yeah.
we're talking about the Brownell, and
Oh, she's going
also,
to be on my show too.
oh, she did contact
She
you.
did. Yeah.
Okay, good.
There's not too
Yeah,
many people with
I
the first
gave
name Brownell, so I think it's her.
yeah, I gave her your information. And the
Yeah.
next one, which you should be hearing from, is Tony Riley over in Australia, who
Oh,
right
thank
now,
you.
though she is in England at the what's the name of it? Arthur Findlay School of Mediumship. She's taken the courses there, so
Okay.
she'll be back in Australia, I think, the end of the month.
Okay.
Uh, I did give her your information, so
Thank you.
I mean they go to class from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. Is what she tells me.
Okay. That's a long day.
Oh yeah, it is a long day.
Okay,
Well,
that's
thank you
great.
for
Thank you
having me,
so
Molly.
much.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. You did a great
It
job.
was fun.
You're a
All right,
pro.
you do anything long enough, you're a pro. Okay, you take care. You have a wonderful rest of the
You
day.
too. Thank you. You too.
Talk to you again
Bye,
soon.
Ann.
Bye.